Hi guys, this is Anthony with Training with AJ, and I've been thinking about making this video for a long time, and I just wanted to make sure it was kind of perfect because this video actually has a lot of personal meaning to me. This morning I'm here by myself in my house. My wife is at work, my daughter's at school, and it's just me and the dog. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to just kind of lay some thoughts that I've had on my mind about what I'm thankful for, especially right now with the Thanksgiving season coming up here this week. And just kind of share with a lot of my students and people that have subscribed to my channel, who I am and what I'm about. So you may agree or disagree with some of the things that I have in my mind. But again, these are just my thoughts, my feelings. So who is Anthony? And, what am I all about? Well, first off, just let everybody know, I was not born an American. I was actually adopted. I'm from Korea. I was born in Korea. I was, at a later date I was adopted. I think, my paperwork said I was like 5, but I was probably like 6 or 7. Somewhere in between there, somewhere in that range. They really didn't have an exact birth date, from my understanding, but somewhere near that. I was about 5, 6, or 7 years old. Anyways, one thing I'm very grateful for is the ability to be an American. Growing up, I had the hardest time trying to cope with the thought of how my mother, my biological mother, could have given me up for adoption. And when you think about that, you think to yourself, well, how can a mother give up their kid? And I've come to realize later on in life, in my adult life, that she did it because she loved me so much. She knew that I'd have better chance in life coming to the United States, to a family that she had no idea where I was going, who I was going to. So that had to have been really hard for her. In fact, one of my last memories of my mother at the time was I was at the airport getting ready to go to the United States. I had no idea what the United States was. In fact, in my mind at that time, the only thing I knew was Korea. I had no idea there was a North Korea, South Korea. All I knew was my little world that I lived in, and all the kids at the orphanage that I knew. And my mother came to see me off at the airport, and I thought, I didn't understand what was going on. I just remember crying. I remember her crying, and that was my last sight of her. Not my last thought of her, but my last sight of her. And all of a sudden, a couple days later, I land in, Minneapolis, Minnesota, to a wonderful family, the Lambert family. So, kind of going back a little bit, I appreciate the fact that my mother gave me up for adoption so I may have a better life. So I'm very, very thankful to her for having the courage to be able to do that. And then the other thing that I'm very thankful for is the fact that I had this awesome American family take me in, a total stranger, total different mindset, total different culture, language, take in this, little boy from Korea and not knowing what the heck was going to happen. There were some rough periods, but I'm very thankful to my parents. They stuck with me through the hard times and the good times. I've kind of came into my own as I grew up. I had a challenging younger years, trying to understand the language, trying to understand the culture. I didn't have to lie, cheat, or steal anymore. Growing up in Korea, I had to do that to survive, and I didn't have to do that. You know, I grew up in a middle class family in the Midwest. You know, with two sisters, a dog, mother and father, who was very supportive of all their of all their children, and they did not treat me like I was different than anybody else. In fact, one thing I realized was that growing up as a kid, a lot of people used to make fun of me because, one, I couldn't speak English, two, I looked different, and I used to get really upset because probably the biggest reason was because I couldn't communicate. So, I realized at a young age that I'm going to have to adapt to everybody else. People aren't going to be able to adapt to me because that just wouldn't make sense. Not everyone's going to learn how to speak Korean. So within 6 months, I was speaking fluent English. I guess it also helps having parents that are teachers as well. So, but my adopted mother, my mom, I remember she took time off from work for a few years, in fact, to be at home and kind of make sure that I transitioned into the American lifestyle. And like I said, there was some times that were very challenging growing up, and they stuck with me, through the bad stuff and through the good stuff. It could have been really easy to just say, hey, let's send his ass back to Korea. And I'm sure that that thought probably crossed their mind a few times. But again, they loved me enough to stick with me and believe in me to be successful in life and to give me those opportunities. Life isn't always easy. Life isn't always what we think it's going to be. But gosh, I'm so glad to be American because this is the only place in the world where you can come from nothing and be something. And it's being that something is all relative. What do I mean by that? Well, I don't have to be a gazillionaire to be happy. I'm very happy in my life. I'm very thankful for the people that I have in my life. And I don't need a lot of friends. I have some key friends that I've had the opportunity to meet in my life and be part of my life. And those people mean a lot to me. My sisters, we didn't always get along. And I don't know of any siblings that always get along. But we have an understanding. And we love each other. That's the thing. My wife, obviously, I'm very thankful for her because without her, I would not be the person that I am today. Marriage can be very challenging at times. There are times when she was like a single mom because, I'm on deployment away from home and she had to run the household and take care of everything while I was gone. And so I'm very thankful for her and my kids. That's the reason why I do the things I do is because of my family. My family is very important to me. Family values are very important to me. And I wouldn't have these values without my upbringing. Again, I think later on in life we realize the things that our parents try to teach us don't always make sense, but they do later on in life, because we can't maybe see that far down the road at the time, but when that time comes, you kind of think to yourself like, you know what, I guess mom and dad were right. You can't always do it this way, or it doesn't always work out this way. But sometimes we have to learn from our own mistakes, and sometimes our experiences are our best teachers. So, my wife is a very strong woman. She's she can be kind of feisty at times, but she's very loving, and she has been very supportive of every decision that I've made, regardless if she likes it or not sometimes, but I will always consult her, just out of respect for her, make sure that she's on board, because if both of us are on board with the thought or with the the idea, then I see that we always end up being more successful that way. That way we're not fighting. Um, so through all the years of being in the military, being a military spouse, I know it's a tough job. Um, when I'm on deployment, I just have to worry about my work and that's it. Of course, I think about my family and things like that, and I miss them. But she's back at home, worrying about me, on top of taking care of the house, taking care of all the bills, and going to work and kids in school. So I really appreciate everything that my wife has done and continues to do to this day. Some other people I like to recognize and that I'm thankful for in my life is my good friend Mano. He and I met when he and I were both stationed in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, with 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines. And I was there for about a year, and then he showed up, a little HN, and a little Vietnamese dude, and he just thought he was the shit. And, over time, we kind of grew on each other. We ended up becoming roommates, actually a few different times, both in the barracks and then living out in town. But he'll tell you, if you ever meet him, he'll tell you that he's the one that kind of taught me things. What he likes to say is he taught me how to dress. Well, I don't know about that, but I just let him say whatever because that's him. And again, I think we are the people that we are today based on who we have around us, who we allow in our lives, and I try to pick those people that have that are going to have a positive impact on me. Because if I realized as a young kid is if I had bad people around me or bad kids around me, that I would act like those bad kids. But if I hung around good kids, then I'd act like those good kids. So that's kind of always followed me, throughout my life, throughout my military career, and now as a civilian throughout my civilian career. So I just want to say thanks to my buddy Mano for being that positive influence in my life. Another person that comes to mind is my good friend Bobby. Bobby is a retired Master Chief, and he and I first got to meet when I was stationed in Great Lakes, Illinois. My wife and I moved from Hawaii to Great Lakes, and I was doing a tour of duty as a recruit division commander, pushing new Navy recruits. I was a young second class, and I remember seeing him around the base. At the time, he was not a RDC, but he was a chief at the time, and he was working on base. And I saw him, I saw him around, and then I think he went from being a regular staff member to a recruit division commander. And I used to see him on the street, what we call, around base, being on the street. And I was like, man, this guy thinks he's a pretty boy. He'd have his little, chief hat on, his garrison cap, have his, bridge coat on with his white scarf, looking all, Vogue and everything. So, and then we ended up being in the same ship or divisions, and I used to make fun of him all the time. Well, again, I was a second class at the time. He was a chief, and we ended up pushing 3 or 4 divisions together, and we probably had the best divisions. He taught me a lot about being a leader, how to talk to people, and we still talk to this day. In fact, I think he was a big part of when I was meritoriously promoted to first class while I was at Great Lakes. And, at the time I was only like one of, maybe just a handful of corpsmen, because at that time they just opened up RDC duty for corpsmen. Beforehand, corpsmen were not allowed to be in that duty. Now there's corpsmen all over Great Lakes. So, and what's a corpsman? Corpsman's a Navy medic. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. But Bobby has had a huge influence, and throughout our Navy careers, we've kept in contact, and just kind of bounce ideas off each other. And I remember, when I made chief, I contacted him and asked him to put an entry into my chief book, and I look at my chief book. If you're not a chief, don't worry about it. The chiefs that are out there, they understand. They know what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain, but I read my book every so often just to kind of remind me, even today, as to what a leader should be and what a leader isn't. So, just as a reminder. So, thank you, Bobby. I appreciate everything that you have done for me and my family. I wish you the best as always, and I hope that we can always stay in contact. A couple other people I like to thank is my business partner Kim. She and I don't see eye to eye on everything, but we come to a good compromise, and we kind of balance each other out. It's been a wonderful business that both her and I have built together, Armed Citizen Training, and we've traveled all over the Midwest, training thousands of law-abiding citizens in the safe use of firearms, so they can get their concealed carry licenses, or just for general knowledge. We've taught several people in self-defense with pepper spray, and she's it's hard for her because she has a full-time job, and that's how she and I actually met. Was my last tour of duty was at Great Lakes, and she actually worked. Her department was under my department, so she didn't work for me, but kind of in charge of, because her department fell under my department, kind of in charge of just making sure. I don't know. I really didn't do that much for her, but anyways, that's how we met, and we had built a great relationship, friendship, and our families know each other really well, and again, having a great business partner really helps out creating a great business. Both of our spouses were very supportive, and there have been many, the last 5 years, I swear, it seemed like it was being on deployment. That's the only thing I can really relate it to. It's been pretty crazy. So I wanted to thank Kim for being my business partner and just being a great friend. So thank you. One thing, guys, about being an American, I think people forget, and especially, and I'm telling you from the perspective of having to earn the right to become an American. I was not born an American. Is that I have seen how our society has changed over time, and society does change. I see people say things like, well, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm an independent, I'm, a communist, whatever. And what kind of makes me kind of sit back and wonder or think about is, why don't people think that I am an American instead of choosing sides? If they can put themselves as an American first, that would be great. Then we could maybe the guys in D.C. can work things out instead of saying, well, I'm on the left, I'm on the right. Well, hey, you know what? I'm an American and I need to do what's best for America. Instead of saying what's best for my party or what's best for my lobby groups or whatever the case may be. Now, again, I'm telling you this from the point of view of having been around the world a couple times actually, and being able to experience other cultures, living in other cultures, and being able to compare that to being American and why I'm so thankful that I'm American. If I would have stayed in Korea, if I was never adopted, I would have probably maybe survived. I probably wouldn't be as successful as I am now because just the opportunities weren't there, were not available. Education-wise, just wasn't available. But here, being American, we can say what we want to say to a point. We can do things that we want to do to a point. Um, so the question I guess I would ask all you guys to just think about is, do we have absolute freedom? And I would say no, we don't have absolute freedom. But are we freer than most societies? I would say yes. Whereas let's just use the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a great thing to have because we can say things that are on our mind without the fear of reprisal from everybody else. Now, everybody else can not agree with you, but we don't have to be afraid of the government come in and grabbing you out of your house in the middle of the night because you said something that they didn't like, or you believe in something that they don't agree with. So that's pretty nice to have that First Amendment freedom. Now, most of you guys know that I'm a huge Second Amendment advocate. And let's just dispel some myths first. Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. Okay? Think about it this way. Without the Second Amendment, it'd be pretty damn hard to have the First Amendment or any of the other amendments. The Second Amendment kind of guarantees that we have those freedoms, those rights, as prescribed by our forefathers. Now, people may argue, well, you can't. That doesn't give you the right to have a tank or a missile in my yard. Well, first of all, I wouldn't want a tank or a missile in my yard. I think it'd be kind of cool, but I just don't have the space. But keep this in mind. The millions and billions and trillions of dollars that our government spends on those high-speed, low-drag systems, drones, missiles, ships, aircraft, it's all in support of that 18-year-old holding that rifle in their hand out in the field. I don't care what anybody says. Unless you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can bomb the crap out of somebody, but they're still going to come back. Look at history. Okay? Look at Vietnam. They bombed the shit out of the Vietnamese, and they still came back. Look at Afghanistan. They bombed the shit out of everybody, and they still came back. Just look at recent events. They're bombing the shit out of ISIS, and guess what? They're still coming back. The only way you can absolutely ensure that the target is eliminated is you got to send in that young man or woman with that rifle in their hand to make sure the job is done. Okay? Until technology is so advanced that we can make drone humans, you got to have that human element in there. And it's that 18-year-old kid, with a rifle in their hand. I honestly believe that. What else? So, when we're... so you got to have that Second Amendment. Okay? You got to fight for your Second Amendment. People ask me all the time, so you think that the government's going to come and take your guns or, do this or do that? Well, I sure hope not, But, as time has gone by, it seems like we're willing to give up more of our freedoms in support of or in defense of our national security. Now think about that. Are you willing to give up your freedoms to have a sense of more security? Not that it is more secure, but a sense of that it's more secure. I'll give you something to think about. If the government came in and said, turn in all your guns, and we as law-abiding citizens, everybody, we eliminated the firearms in the United States, and it actually stopped violence. Okay, it actually stopped violence. There was no more mass shootings. There's no more, suicides with the firearm. There's no more, drug crime and using firearms. There's no more murders. With firearms, of course. Okay. Would you be willing to give up your Second Amendment right to have that safety? That question was posed to me, and I was thinking, holy cow. If it could guarantee that we have no more gun deaths, hell no. I wouldn't want to give up my Second Amendment for that, because as soon as we do, I came to the conclusion on my own that as soon as we gave up that right, well, what else could they do? If we're willing to give up our Second Amendment right and we're disarmed, what else could the government do? And when I say government, it's that one person that's sitting in that office that can determine how the rest of our lives is affected. I'm not willing to give that up. So as an American, I'm willing to defend, and I've taken the oath, to support and defend the Constitution, not support and defend an administration, or support and defend a congressman, or support and defend a certain state. My oath that I took was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I hope everybody that is in the government feels the same way and thinks about their responsibility. Their responsibility is to the Constitution. It's an idea. It's not to a particular person. And it took me a little bit of time to kind of figure that out. Having been in the military most of my adult life, I've been, I retired back in 2010, and I'm going on my 5th year of retirement right now, and it took me about my 3rd year in retirement to figure out, what, I can think for myself. I don't have to say things or do things just because I was in the military. And that's actually that was a pretty weird moment when I came to that realization that I can actually think for myself. I don't have to say the things that I was expected to say to my troops. Because there were times when I didn't agree with a particular command decision, but I had to support that decision. So in front of my junior sailors and Marines, hey, as far as they knew, it was coming from me. But behind closed doors, I would voice my opinion, give my recommendations of why we should do something or why we should not do something, and then leave it up to the commander to decide, ultimately what they're going to do, and whatever their decision is what I'm going to carry out. But now as a civilian, I can think for myself, and I can disagree with what the government's doing. I can disagree with what the military's doing. I don't have to call an officer sir or ma'am. I still do, just out of respect, I guess, and more than actually probably more out of habit more than anything else. Not necessarily out of respect for their rank, but I don't know some of these people. There's a lot of new faces. When I go to the VA, I see the new doctors, new nurses. They rotate in and out every 2 to 3 years. So, but I just so used to saying sir or ma'am. So, but I can disagree and not feel like I'm gonna get written up because I disagreed with something. So I guess here's the lesson I've learned in my life thus far, and I'm definitely probably will learn more lessons in my life, is that one, think for yourself. Okay, I gotta think for myself. Don't take what other people tell you as gospel. Do some research. Does it make sense? When people ask me, especially when it comes like the political stuff, there's certain things that I'm very conservative about, but then there's certain things that I'm pretty liberal about, in the sense that, I don't care if somebody's gay or transgender or whatever. As long as it doesn't affect me, so I don't really care. Or if somebody doesn't like guns, that's fine. I don't push my agenda on them, and I just don't want them to push their agenda on me. That's the key thing. Let me believe what I believe, and I'll let you believe what you believe. If you want to live your life a certain way, so be it. I mean, that doesn't affect me at all. Does it affect society? Well, I don't go. Again, I don't go out to society with my wife and start just making out with my wife. Okay, one, we don't feel that's appropriate, and I wouldn't expect other people to do that as well. If I saw another male and female couple doing that out in public, I would think, you know what, go get a room, or go do that somewhere privately, not out in the open in front of the public. I just think it's inappropriate. Again, that's just my opinion. You can differ from me or not. It's up to you. I really don't care. So let people live their lives. Okay, I don't care how if you're if you want to get married, get married. If you don't want to get married, don't get married. But I think marriage is important. I think being committed to someone is important, whoever that person may be. I just hope that you both take care of each other. That's the key thing. Because every time you get into a fight or you break up with somebody, you leave a piece of yourself. Or you lose a piece of yourself when that happens, I believe. I think there's things that our government can definitely do better at. I don't believe that they can solve all problems, definitely. In fact, one thing I realized government, it's crazy, is that the government, every time they put a regulation, it's really restriction on freedom. Think about it. Be it your local government, city ordinance, it's something you can't do. Any ordinance that I've ever read, it's something that you can't do, not something you can do. And of course, they'll always try to sell it as, well, it's for public safety. Well, Jesus, how safe do we need to be? Pretty soon, I think we'll have to be wearing like padded suits walking around so everybody's safe. People are going to do what people are going to do. It doesn't matter what you write on a piece of paper. If they're going to want to do it, they're going to do it. And that's why every time they try to bring up a new gun law or a new ordinance of some kind, I just shake my head thinking, these people, they have no idea about humans. Okay, human behavior, and hopefully we can change that. I always believe that it's my own personal responsibility to take care of my family. It's not the government's job, it's my job. It's my own personal responsibility to make sure I pay my bills on time. It's my job, not the government's job. I feel that it's my personal responsibility to protect myself and my family. It's not the government's job, it's my job. So, in closing, I guess ultimately is, we can do all these things, and we can, disagree, and sometimes we can disagree viciously. But isn't it great to know that we can do that and still be alive and not worry about someone putting a bullet in our head because we disagree? Isn't it great that you can come from a low-income family and be a millionaire if you want to? Isn't it great that we can go from state to state without having to show papers? I think you have to have rules and regulations in society to make sure that society does run smoothly. So I'm not saying that we don't have any rules, but again, you just can't have total freedom. Total freedom would be anarchy. Okay, and I don't believe in that. But think about, are you free, and what are you doing to progress that freedom? Got to start at home. The way I teach my kids about being self-sufficient, not depending on others, making sure that they can survive. I think that's our job. That's my job, at least as a parent, is to make sure that when I'm not here, that my daughter, my son can make it in life. And I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. Okay, but I learn from those mistakes. The other thing I want to close off with is, make sure that you fight for your rights, you fight for your freedoms, because if you don't, they're going to be taken away. All right? Where is your line in the sand? I know where mine is. Do you know where yours is? Anyways, this is Anthony with Training with AJ. Again, I appreciate you sitting here listening to me, just to kind of share my thoughts and feelings. I love being an American. I will not give it up for anything. And it's an ideology. It's a sense of pride. It's what I believe. It kind of guides my principles as to how I treat other people. There are certain things that we as Americans are known for in the world. Are we exceptional? I think so. Why does everybody look to us to problem solve? So yeah, we're exceptional because we're a group of many different people of many different thoughts and ideas, different cultures, different backgrounds, and we can come together and make shit happen. I think we need to get back to the basics. Fight for your freedom, fight for your rights, because no one else will. Okay, do your part and be positive when you're doing it. Okay, be a positive influence on your family. Be a positive influence on your fellow co-workers. Be a positive influence toward your subordinates, and be a positive influence toward your bosses. Try to make every day a positive experience. Look for the good in things. Your life will be so much better and happier than focusing on the negatives. Again, thank you so much for supporting Armed Citizen Training over the years. Look forward to seeing you guys in training, and again, follow along. I got some more videos coming up with gear reviews now that it's becoming winter and more time indoors. So stay safe, and remember, your self-defense is your responsibility.